Alright, welcome back once again. In this one, we're pretty much done with our teddy bear, Mickey Mouse, whatever you actually made. And I've already saved mine out, so I'm gonna go to File and New Scene, which should bring up a new scene for me. And a couple of things I would like to say before we begin. I'm going to go to the Polygon tab, and I'm going to create a rectangle or a box. Okay? I'm going to hit 5 on the keyboard. Now you can see the green outline here just goes along the edges of the box. In my attribute editor, I'm going to click on Polycube 1. Okay, it's that third tab, and you'll see a section that says subdivisions width, subdivisions height, subdivisions depth. Okay, just a reminder, if your attribute editor was not open, you can click this first button up here, or you can hit Control A or Command A on the keyboard. Navigate to that third tab, and if you want to make a more complex shape, you can add subdivisions. This will actually give you more geometry to sculpt later. So you can make much more complex shapes by dividing them up. However, keep in mind, the more divisions it has, the more polygons it has. Each one of these little squares is a polygon. The more it has, the longer it will take to render, the more processor intensive it's going to be when you render. So kind of try and think of what it is that you're making before you start dividing stuff up. In this lesson, we're going to make a little room and some furniture and stuff. It may span over the next 2 lessons, depending. So the room itself, I just want one subdivision in each. And kind of like in movies where sometimes the rooms aren't complete rooms, they're missing a wall so you can see, I'm going to get rid of the wall and the ceiling to this room that I've just created. So when we right-clicked before to go down to assign existing material, there's all these options at the top when you right-click that don't really fit in that little rectangular menu. You'll use these a lot. You'll switch between them quite a bit. So I'm going to go down to face mode. Okay, so put the mouse over it and let go of the right mouse button. You'll see my green outline changes to blue, and holding Alt, of course, to pan around here, you'll see that I have a dot in the middle of each face. Okay, it's called face mode because you can select individual faces. Now you can put on your select tool or hit Q to put it on, and I just want to select one wall, and I want to select the roof. Now be careful when you're in face mode, because you can click and drag a selection. Okay, so it looks like I've just selected that front face, but when I scroll around, it will select all the way through your object. Okay, so you want to be careful. When I did this, not only did I get this dot, I got the dot that is on the other face. So here's where switching between shaded mode and wireframe mode can be handy. Personally, I just like to click on the blue dot, obviously pan around to make sure that you haven't got anything else selected, hit delete, click on one of the walls. Actually, I want to make sure that I delete the front wall, just because. So I guess that was the front wall. So I will go ahead and tap the spacebar, go back to my perspective view, click on just the blue dot to select that wall, make sure that nothing else is selected, hit delete. So now when I zoom in, it looks like a room. You can see 1 wall, 2 walls, 3 walls, the floor. As long as when I render I don't do this, where you can see there's no roof and see that the floor ends. then I've got my room. On this as well, while I'm in face mode, you can apply different materials to different faces of the same object. So if I select the floor, click on my rendering tab, and click Lambert, brings up my attribute editor. I'm going to rename it to floor, and I picture this just being a little bit of a red carpet, so I click on my color swatch, I draw red, I want it a darker red, hit accept, and when I deselect it you can see that it's red and the walls are still gray. And I picture the walls kind of being drywall, so I'm going to change those as well. But rather than selecting individual walls, if you hold shift and click, and keep holding shift and click, you can add to your selection. Now that I've got that done, I want this to be something like drywall, so I'll assign it a Lambert, something that's not shiny, because drywall typically isn't shiny, and just give it a lighter color. Awesome. So there I have my room. Probably all we have time left for in this session is we'll create a table. So I'm going to click on the Polygons tab and click on a polygon cylinder. And I will go ahead and draw what I think is a good size for a leg of a table in this particular room. Okay, it's going to be a very plain table, but that's okay. Now you can see that this table leg already has quite a bit of geometry in it. It's divided up quite a bit. I'm actually going to take that down a little bit because I don't think I need that many divisions. So I'm going to click Polycylinder, that third tab over, and it's subdivided 20 times. I'm actually going to put it all the way down to 3. That kind of makes it triangle. My table will have triangle legs. Now I want to make sure the legs are all the same, so I'm going to select my leg, go up to Edit and down to Duplicate, or you can hit Control D. Okay, so that has duplicated it in place, and now I'll put on my Move tool, or you can hit W. I'm just going to move it out. So that's about how wide my table will be. Now, like I did with the walls, I'll hold Shift and click on the other leg, so both of them are selected. Go up to Edit, go down to Duplicate, or hit Control D, and drag that over. So now I have 4 legs of my table. Now, with triangle legs, it looks a little funny that they're all pointing the same direction. I would think they'd be pointing outward from the tabletop. So I'll hit spacebar and then put my mouse over the top view, hit spacebar again, zoom in just a little bit, and I'm going to select these one by one, hit E to put on my rotate tool, and I'm just going to rotate the point outward. Okay, so they point outward or inward depending which way you're looking at the triangle, but I just think that they'll look more like they're supposed to be there if they're this particular way. Okay. Now, to make sure that my tabletop is the right size, I'm going to stay in my top view so I can see how far apart my legs are. Grab the polygon cube and click and drag and try and make sure that my tabletop is out centered and that it comes over the edge, because that's how tabletops do. Then hit the space bar, go into my front view, drag up to a thickness I think the tabletop would be, hit W to put on my Move tool, and just move the tabletop up. Now, if you'll notice, I actually left the legs intersecting the tabletop just so that they look like they're connected. Hit the space bar, hit the space bar, rotate around. Awesome. Looks like I have a table. Almost looks like it's a little not centered. But now I'm going to select it all by holding Shift and clicking on all of them, and go to my rendering tab. I'm going to give it, it probably would be wood, so I'm going to give it a Fong, something kind of shiny. click on my swatch here and give it a brown so it's almost a table color, which will fix a little bit more in the next lesson. So go ahead and save that out. I'm going to save it as Dining Room 1. File, Save Scene As, Dining Room 1. And in the next lesson we'll go a little bit further, so make sure you save that and have it ready for the next lesson.